Good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. My name is Bill Gaughan. I'm a Lackawanna County Commissioner, and it's truly an honor to be here with you today at the Trolley Museum, one of our region's proud symbols of progress and movement, to talk about an issue that speaks directly to the heart of what real progress means. I want to acknowledge a good friend of mine. I've known him for many years. I know everybody in this room probably knows him. Keith Williams, who's the head of our Disability Action Committee, and probably out of anybody in Lackawanna County has done more for people with disabilities than anyone else that I've ever met my entire life. So how about a hand for Keith and our entire committee. We're gathering today not just as public officials, advocates, and service providers, but as neighbors and as fellow citizens who are committed to ensuring that every person in Lackawanna County has the right to live, to move, to thrive, and to be heard. 35 years ago, President George H.W. Bush stood at the White House in front of a large crowd of people and said the following as he signed the Americans with Disabilities Act. He said, "I now lift my pen to sign this Americans with Disabilities Act and say, let the shameful wall of exclusion finally come tumbling down." And yet, here we are, still working in 2025, stone by stone, to dismantle those walls. Because while the law opened doors, we know that too many remain closed, literally and figuratively. Curb cuts that stop short, elevators that never arrived, waiting lists for services that stretch into years, entrances that exclude, and systems that silence. But we are here today to change that. Not just to name the barriers, but to challenge them. Not just to describe the problems, but to create solutions together. This town hall today is about the truth. It's about listening deeply. It's about building something better. A community where access isn't an afterthought, where disability isn't treated as limitation, and where every voice carries weight. Former U.S. Vice President Hubert Humphrey once said, the moral test of government is how it treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the disabled. We in county government are committed to passing that test. And I promise you that the work doesn't stop when today ends and this town hall ends. The conversations we begin here must carry forward into policy, into planning, and into every decision that we make. To those who are sharing your stories today, thank you. Your courage paves the way for change. And to those in government, myself included, let us listen humbly, respond boldly, and act with urgency. And let this be the place where another piece of that wall comes down. Thank you, and let's get to work.
Thank you.
And now Commissioner Chermak is going to say a few words. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Anybody not ever been here before? This is one of my favorite places to come and hide when I'm having a bad day. So, welcome. So I'm honored to be here today with all of you at our town hall meeting. It's hosted by our Lackawanna County Disability Action Committee. I have a warm greeting to our government officials, legislators, and community advocates. Sorry, can't see, can't read.
All right.
Harold, can I borrow your glasses? And for the residents too, thanks for coming. This gathering is a testament to our shared commitment to fostering an inclusive Lackawanna County where everyone can thrive. Today, we'll hear directly from you about the challenges and opportunities ahead, while also sharing updates on programs and facilities that enhance accessibility. For example, Lackawanna County has supported municipalities like Dixon City, Archibald, with grants for curb cuts and safer crosswalks, improving pedestrian safety. We've also backed projects like the Scranton Tennis Club's ADA accessibility upgrades. For our park system, we've invested in upgrades to ensure our county parks are welcoming to all. These efforts reflect all our dedication to removing barriers and expanding access. I encourage open dialogue and collaboration as we work together to address gaps, strengthen resources, and build more accessible future. Thank you to the Disability Action Committee for organizing this event, to our legislators for their partnership, and to all of you for bringing your voices to this vital conversation. Let's make today's discussion meaningful and impactful. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thanks so much. We're on there. We are. Thanks so much for your help and your cooperation in empowering the committee to have this event today. We appreciate all the help that you've given us over the last several years. And I'd just like everybody to know that both Commissioners Gaughan and Chermak jumped at the idea when our committee first brought this to their attention and just raised the possibility of having this kind of an event and seeing right from the people with disabilities, family members, disability advocates, nonprofit providers and organizations that work with people with disabilities. So we appreciate your help as well as the panel. Everybody who's here to be involved from Lackawanna County and from our area state representatives and state senators' offices. We're expecting Mayor Cognetti around 2 o'clock or so, and I'd like everybody to kind of introduce themselves. We'll go down the lineup and self-introduce, but I just wanted you to bear with me just for a remark or two. As you know, any kind of an undertaking like this is a community event, and it really takes a committee to plan this. So I want to thank my fellow Disability Action Committee members for always being there and everybody doing something to make this event a success. Again, the Commissioner's Office, but a few other people, some may be here, some may not, within Lackawanna County who contributed greatly to this. Pat McKenna and Kristin O'Malley did a great job in terms of guiding us in terms of media relations, assisted with getting a billboard for us through Lamar Media. We appreciate the efforts of Tom Donahue there as well. Mark Cordelli, who did the signs that you see in front of you on the table. Now, I do have to tell you, we had a couple of staff members, legislative assistants for some legislators who came here today. So I apologize in advance. I got the names for some people who were coming after we had given the names in for the plaques. So if your names don't exactly match up, no one's going to accuse you of fraud for the day. You'll just have a different name on your nameplate. We also had to do a little bit of rearranging, so each person might not match the bullet point that's on the agenda 100%, but we're more or less keeping the same order. So we appreciate their help to make this a success as well. Also, as I'm sure the commissioners know and people work for the county to know, another unsung hero of the county is Tracy Hart, for all the information and the help that she's provided during the course of this and helping us work out the logistics. And I don't believe she's here, but I know Tracy deserves a shout out. So again, thank you for coming. We're interested in hearing a great dialogue. We want this to be an open session. We want to hear from you in terms of what you believe the needs are for people with disabilities in Lackawanna County. And if there's not representation here from an entity or a legislator or a branch of government that can address or focus in on your request, we'll make sure that it does get to the proper person and that it will go through channels and that people will hear you. And what I'd like to do is to have everybody introduce themselves and and then we will get into having our speaker in just a moment. So we'll be starting, Kristin, with you, and we'll go down the line.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristin Magnotta, and I'm the Director of Economic Development and Planning for Lackawanna County.
I'm Frank Stevens. I'm the Deputy Director for Parks and Recreation for the county.
My name is Christine Bush. I'm here on behalf of State Senator Rosemary Brown, who represents the 40th Senatorial District, all of Monroe, Lackawanna, and Wayne counties.
Hello, I'm Victoria Cole. I'm here on behalf of Senator Marty Flynn, and I am his Communications Director.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Fox. I'm here on behalf of State Representative Kyle Donahue. I am his Chief of Staff.
I'm Jim Haddock, State Representative, and I represent both Lackawanna, parts of Lackawanna and Luzerne County.
Hi, good morning. Bridget, Kosierowski. I'm a state representative here in Lackawanna County.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kyle Mullins. I'm another state representative from Lackawanna County. I represent the 112th District, which runs from Dunmore up to the Carbondale area. It's good to be with all of you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim McGrath, I think. Yep, all right. So that worked out well. I'm the Executive Director at COLTS. I want to thank you all for having us, but I'd also like to recognize our Director of Shared Ride, Kelly Matone, has joined me here today, and so we'll be able to hopefully address any specific questions to that program. Thank you.
And I also want to thank our sign language interpreters for being here today. Dale, give me 1 second. I want to have our Disability Action Committee introduce themselves.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nicole Bachman, and I'm with the Lackawanna County Disability Action Committee.
Hi, my name is Joe Salva. I am also a member of the committee, as well as the president of Individual Abilities in Motion.
Hi, my name is Marion. I'm a newbie. So that I just can't believe how many people came out. This is wonderful. And thank you for everybody up front. I'm just wanting to hear what people have to say.
Lackawanna County in South Scranton. I am very happy to be here with all of you. Hi, I am Robert Walsh. I live in Lackawanna County in South Scranton. I am very happy to be here with all of you.
Thank you again. Okay. A little introduction of Dale Verchick. We appreciate you being here. Dale is the Director of Public Policy with the Disability Rights Network, a premier organization in Pennsylvania that's helped us out at the Center for Independent Living and other advocates statewide for many years for people with disabilities who run into some issues and where we really need some legal backing, legal background to help. She's the Director of Public Policy at the Disability Rights Network of Pennsylvania. Oh, we'll go back up. I'm sorry, Dale. Director of Public Policy at the Disability Rights Pennsylvania, where she leads legislative and policy initiatives. She previously coordinated the protection and advocacy for beneficiaries of Social Security. A lot of people across Pennsylvania know that as the PABSS grant, working to eliminate employment barriers for Social Security beneficiaries with disabilities. An immigrant who experienced displacement during the first Gulf War, Dale understands the challenges faced by refugees and marginalized communities. She's been an advocate at the RP since 2008 and serves on both the Pennsylvania Employment First Oversight Commission and Board of the Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation. She's also the parent of a child with a disability, which deepens her commitment to inclusive policy and family-centered advocacy. Dale holds a master's degree in law and public policy and bachelor's degrees in sociology and education. Her advocacy promotes self-determination, equity, and access, advancing a more inclusive society where people with disabilities can live freely and without barriers. It's the Disability Action Committee's pleasure to introduce Dale Verchick.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Keith, for that wonderful introduction. I have been in my role at Disability Rights Pennsylvania, in this particular role as the Public Policy Director for only 3 weeks, so I'm fairly new in that role, but not new to Disability Rights Pennsylvania. I've been with them 17 years. I have my little daughter is here, Lucy. She's 6 years old, blowing me butterfly kisses. But a lot of my work is driven around disability rights, from all the successes and the stories of challenges that folks face that I've been hearing over so many years. So again, I want to thank the Lackawanna County Commissioners, the Disability Action Committee, our hosts here at the Trolley Museum. This is my first time here, and it's beautiful. And all of you, self-advocates, family members, the local officials, service providers, and allies for coming together to build bridges today. And as Commissioner mentioned, we're meeting in this place built to move people. Trolleys linked neighborhoods, jobs, schools, and daily life. And that's our goal this afternoon, to connect across systems so every person with a disability can get where they need to go in every part of life. So just 5 days ago, on July 26th, the Americans with Disabilities Act turned 35. When it was signed in 1990, the idea that access was a civil right, not a favor, not charity, was still radical to many people. Disabled activists had spent decades saying, we belong in school, we belong at work, we belong in our communities, let us in. The ADA set 4 goals that still guide us: equal opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. And everything that we talk about today connects to these 4 goals. And right now I want to talk about the real wins that we can see. And anniversaries are a really great time to ask that question. Has the law made life better? It has, and it still does. So if you rolled into this building, pushed a stroller, or wheeled in a cart of event supplies, you benefited from a design change that disability advocates forced into building codes nationwide. That was an ADA win. If you have been on a bus with a lift, used priority seating, heard an audible stop sign, a call, if you've traveled using paratransit, which reaches people who can't use fixed routes, if you've used an accessible rail station, this is an ADA win. It's not perfect all the time, but it's still a revolution compared to the past. If you read captioning on live TV, streaming, and in public meetings, if you've used relay and video relay services to make calls and are actually seeing our amazing ASL sign language interpreter right here, this is an ADA win. If you've read a welcoming sign to service animals at a public place, or if you have a service animal helping you at home, that's an ADA win. If you were able to vote using a ballot marking device or used a curbside option, that is an ADA win. And finally, but so importantly, and my favorite, guided by the ADA Title II and the Supreme Court's Olmstead versus LC decision, thousands moved out of institutions into homes and communities with supports. That shift is one of the ADA's most life-changing impacts and greatest wins. So whether progress has come through the force of law or the pull of conscience, the ADA has steadily moved us toward realizing its 4 overarching goals. And here in Lackawanna County, I wanted to highlight, I'm not from Lackawanna County, I live a little south of here in Schuylkill County, but you can see the progress that keeps unfolding. I was reading about your McDade Park, and you know, playgrounds are so dear to me because I have a child with a disability who loves playgrounds. And so, you know, you have this boundless playground with inclusive swings, transfer platforms, quiet sensory zones, and a smooth loop trail so that kids of all abilities can play together. How wonderful is that? And you have that zero entry pool at your McDade Park. I heard about the Scranton city doing some great renovations so that folks with disabilities can come through the front door, not the back. Is that, am I right on all these, right? And your polling places have improved. Now your polling places are equipped with an accessible entrance, portable ramps, clear signage, permanent fixes, so that voters with disabilities can cast votes directly and not at the curb. So these are concrete local wins because of your hard-working advocacy and voices that make the ADA real. So I'd like to really quickly shed some light on Disability Rights Pennsylvania, if you're not familiar with who we are. Disability Rights Pennsylvania, DRP as I'll refer to it from here on, is Pennsylvania's federally designated protection and advocacy organization. We're a statewide, independent nonprofit that safeguards the civil, human, and legal rights of people with disabilities. We have a roughly 50-person team of attorneys, advocates, and administrative staff that work from offices in Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. Some of us work remotely, like myself, from Schuylkill County, but based out of the Harrisburg office. And we're here to serve every county in Pennsylvania. Day to day, we offer free legal services and representation and advocacy. We investigate abuse and neglect. We educate policymakers. We deliver training and self-advocacy resources. And we run an amazing intake helpline that fields thousands of requests for assistance each year. And I'd like to highlight some of our recent successes. A very recent one that we had a great success with is the Philadelphia shelter system that has become more accessible to individuals with disabilities. So we, along with the Project Home, the Homeless Advocacy Project, and Liberty Resources, Inc., we wrote to Philadelphia's Office of Homeless Services to express concerns of disability discrimination in the city of Philadelphia's emergency housing shelter system. In response, the city met with DRP and its partners regularly for over a 2-year period to address some specific concerns and implement some specific reforms. Since then, the shelter system has launched comprehensive disability initiatives. Staff now receive regular trainings on accessibility, reasonable accommodation, and service assistance animals, and every client is asked about accommodation needs right at intake, with requests tracked in an online system overseen by the Office of Homeless Services Director of Compliance. The city also clarified its service and assistance animal policy. Deaf and hard of hearing residents now have on-demand video remote interpreting, and an outside firm is surveying 45 shelters to recommend physical access upgrades, a project slated to be completed in 2026. We know that folks with disabilities are disproportionately affected by homelessness and are often turned away due to their needs. This was a huge win for us and for people who need the shelter system in Philadelphia. And I just want to also talk about the litigation that we have done. Sometimes progress takes more than good intentions. It takes a lawsuit. And recent victories by Disability Rights Pennsylvania showed the ADA's power in practice. I want to highlight a few lawsuits that we filed. Topper versus Pennsylvania's Department of Correction. So we sued the DOC to ensure and to secure effective communication devices for a deaf man in state prison so that he can talk with staff, lawyers, and family. Disability Rights Pennsylvania versus Chester County Prison. Last year in 2024, we reached a binding settlement that reforms policies, staff training, and accommodations for prisoners with disabilities, setting a statewide precedent for jail access. In Trent versus Bukvar, which is about remote accessible vote by mail, our federal lawsuit forced the Commonwealth to adopt technology that lets blind voters mark and submit ballots privately in every statewide election. And lastly, which is also such a great win, our attorneys asked a federal court to compel the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services to honor a settlement that lets 4 former DRP clients keep their 24-hour residential habilitation supports under the OBRA waiver. Once that motion was filed, DHS secured a new provider and fully restored services so that the clients could continue living independently in their own homes. So these cases protect the right to communicate, to cast a secret ballot, and to obtain equal treatment behind bars. Proof that the ADA's promise is enforceable when communities fall short. But there's so much work that remains, and we all know this. But the celebration matters, but also accountability does. And at Disability Rights Pennsylvania, we still hear every day from people with disabilities facing so many barriers. You know, older Main Street storefronts that are inaccessible, websites, apps, kiosks that screen readers can't navigate, inaccessible medical providers, unreliable paratransit services, which is a real stubborn employment gap, and also sub-minimum wage rules under the outdated Section 14C. You know, we have a shortage of accessible homes, compounded obstacles where disability intersects with race, poverty, rural isolation, and LGBTQ identity. And if any of these are challenges that resonate here in Lackawanna County, please, we want to know about them, bring them to our attention. We want to hear your story, and we want to work towards solutions. So as we mark the 35 years of ADA's promise, I invite each of you and each of us really to bring our voices and our stories to the policy conversation that matters most. We want to strengthen home and community-based services. We want to phase out 14C certificates that pay sub-minimum wages so that every worker earns a fair paycheck. We want to preserve the rights of folks with intellectual and mental health disabilities to stay in their homes with the right supports. We want to stabilize funding for accessible transit across Pennsylvania, and we want to safeguard continuous Medicaid coverage, ensuring that every public website and app meets the new federal digital accessibility standards, and weaving disability readiness into emergency preparedness. And I want to really highlight that none of these goals belong to one party or another. They belong to every constituent who relies on a curb cut, on paratransit rides, on ASL interpreter services to fully participate in civic life. So please reach out to your senators, your representative, your local officials, share what works, explain what still falls short, and offer concrete solutions. When we frame our advocacy in personal experience and practical fixes, we can help policymakers see the path toward the next generation of access and inclusion. So let's renew our shared commitment to furthering disability rights, breaking down all these barriers that we've talked about, and building this inclusive society that we all are looking forward to seeing. Our work is far from over. And if history has taught us anything, it's that if progress is possible when we organize, when we speak up, and when we stand together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dale. Very timely, relevant comments, and some of the very interesting, the themes that you hit on, and some of the cases that I think are eye-openers for the public in general, who may think of, you're having an event that is involved with the ADA and accessibility. We may think of a ramp, we may think of a curb cut, but those examples you cited fall into the concept how ADA obviously applies to all kinds of disabilities. And I think many of us in the room here, many of you could probably identify with the fact that just because you can't see a disability doesn't mean that it's not there. There are all kinds of hidden and invisible disabilities as well. So, particularly examples you brought out with the Department of Corrections. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and the work that you do at DR. And please express our gratitude for your presentation and to you personally on behalf of the commission. Okay, next I'd like to introduce Kristen Magnotta.
Yeah, the answers.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Kristin Magnotta, and I'm the director of the Lackawanna County Department of Planning and Economic Development. And I'm here to talk just a little bit about how the Economic Development Department addresses accessibility. The Lackawanna County Department of Planning and Economic Development generally receives grants for all of our economic development projects. State and federal grants often have ADA accessibility built into their projects as a requirement, but not all. It all depends on what the grant is and what the project is. Therefore, it becomes even more important for us as Lackawanna County to take accessibility seriously and make sure that that is a main priority for us in building any of our parks, any of our trails, and doing any projects that we do in economic development. Accessibility, as you know and was stated multiple times, isn't just about having access to a location or to an amenity. It's about quality of life and having the opportunity to enjoy the same amenities as everyone else. The priority, this is a main priority for the county and specifically for the economic development projects that my department undertakes. We often have so much more to do when it comes to upgrading infrastructure, and my department stands ready, certainly, to hear from the public if there are any amenities that need to be addressed that are of Lackawanna counties. Just a few examples of some projects that are either ongoing or we are taking on at this time, or we have completed in the past are currently, and I hope I don't steal your thunder, Frank, I'm going to try not to here, but our Murley-Sarnoski Park, it's currently undergoing engineering and a design phase to upgrade the restrooms and other aspects of the park, including any ADA accessibility needs. Bernard Szymanski Memorial Park, it's also known to all those in Dixon City as the Elm Street Park, will have ADA parking, ADA accessible paths around the park in order to access the entire park and its amenities, which are the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and the pavilion. I would be remiss to not say that the Trolley Museum here is ADA accessible and was a wonderful project. The North Pocono Trail, you may have read about that recently in the newspaper. That is one of our new trails that we are currently still undertaking, working through the final punch list to address some issues. And I'll give you an example of how important it is for us to work with the community. It was actually, I believe, Keith who came to us and said that one of our bollards, or two of our bollards at the very beginning of our park to access the trail wasn't far enough apart and didn't meet ADA accessible needs. That's the communication that's important for us to then go in and with our final punch lists, make sure that that's corrected so what we claim is accessible actually is accessible. I have so many more projects here that I can say, but for sake of time, and I know so many other folks would like to get up to the mic here and talk, but I think it's really important that I encourage everyone to reach out to our office if there's an issue with any county projects, parks, buildings, or if you feel like the accessibility doesn't go far enough. As stated, accessibility is a priority to the county, and it's built into our process in economic development, and we want to make sure that we don't ever miss the mark. So please feel free to reach out to the Economic Development Department at the county with any concerns and anything we can do to further address accessibility. Thank you very much for having me, and I certainly look forward to continued conversation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kristen. We appreciate that. Great news with everything going on out of your department, funding accessibility. Frank Stevens from the Parks and Recreation Department.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Frank. I'm with the Parks Department. And first, I'd like to thank the Disability Committee for inviting us to the conversation here. One of our big jobs at the park is ensuring that everybody has a good time. And that's everyone. We partner with the Center for Independent Living, St. Joe's, Goodwill. We try and get as many people into the parks as we possibly can. Keith comes through with the Disability Committee probably every year now or so, just to keep us on our toes, to see if we're missing anything that's going on. Small projects like sidewalks that can be changed to increase disability to a certain area of the park. Kristin talked about some of the grants that we're doing. Merle Sarnowski is going to be a game changer for the beach area down there. It's not very accommodating right now. The plans that we're looking at are so much different. It's going to be a great asset for that part of the county. We're doing pickleball courts up at McDade Park, and as we got into the design part of that, we realized that there's certain areas in there that weren't as accessible. So we're adding into the planning different routes to make wheelchair accessible to some really nice sections of the park that oversee the valley and everything like that. So we try and stay on top of things like this, small projects that turn into something larger. Replacement of a bridge at McDade Park across our pond, across our spillway. We had the idea of partnering with AZAC on Kaiser Avenue, and they've donated railings and deckings and whatnot to turn that small bridge into an ADA fishing area for the children so that we can expand that. So we're always looking for little things like that. We try and stay on our toes with it. With our coal mine, we make it accessible as we can for everybody as far as the coal mine goes. I think everybody enjoys it. But as I said, we're always looking for someone to come up to us and say, you know what, we're missing this. You know, like, there might be something a little bit different that we can add. So feel free to reach out to us. Anything that we can do, we look forward to doing it. Contact the county parks, and we'll make it accessible for everyone. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Good to see the work that's being done up there. You can always count on the committee as a resource to help out with anything. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Next, we'd like to invite Kristine Bush, up to speak, and she will be representing Senator Rosemary Brown. Glad that you made the trip in from your area.
I had the closest trip to the podium, so this is beautiful. Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Keith. You've been a wonderful partner over the years. So I was asked to speak, and I don't want to take anybody's thunder, but I did just want to say, I think I can say on behalf of the elected officials and we as staff, you know, we got into these jobs to try and help people. Sometimes we may not know all of the things that we could be doing better. So we love when people come and say, hey, we have this issue, we have this problem, can you please help us try and fix it? So never shy away from calling our offices. That's what we're here for, you to help, but also that's, I think, why we got most of us got in these positions, is to try and help people. But I was asked to speak about some things on the state level. So I did want to say that there is historic new funding for IDA services. The 2024-25 budget includes a $354.8 million in new state and federal funding for intellectual disabilities. About $280 million is dedicated to increasing wages for direct support professionals, which we've heard that is one of the number one, I would say, number two issues that we could help with on the state level, with $74.8 million towards clearing the emergency wait list. I did want to mention on the senator's behalf, the legislature passed legislation to update terms used for insurance laws to better reflect the values of present day. The enactment of Act 9 of 2025 aligns Pennsylvania law with modern terminology to address individuals with disabilities, and the new law addresses the ask to be more respectful language, such as physical disability and intellectual disability. We also have something that maybe doesn't 100% pertain, but I thought it might be informative. The senator in October of 2024 enacted legislation to establish the first ever Alzheimer's, dementia, and related disorders, which is called ADRD, office within the Commonwealth under the Department of Aging. That was Senate Bill 840, which is now Act 111 of 2024, which allocated $1.9 million to create this office. So again, there's always more that we could be doing. Please let us know. Our offices are all available. I just wanted to see if there was something else, but I think that's in that packet over there, so maybe I'll say it later. But thank you all for having us. Thanks for having this forum. And if there's anything that we could do, please let us know. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristine. We appreciate that. Please express our appreciation to Senator Brown as well. Victoria, and I apologize. You and I had just met before just a little while ago. I didn't catch your last name at the time.
Victoria Cole.
I apologize.
Totally fine.
We're glad that you're here, although we're very familiar with the person who you're representing. Yeah, Victoria today is representing Senator Marty Flynn.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Victoria Cole. I am Senator Flynn's Communications Director. Senator Flynn regrets that he couldn't be here in person, but he did ask me to pass along his deep gratitude to the Lackawanna County Disability Action Committee for organizing this important forum, and to all of you for being here and taking the time to share your experiences and your perspectives. So today's conversation about the barriers that persons with disabilities still face, and just as importantly, the solutions we can work on together, is absolutely essential. Senator Flynn has always believed that accountability, inclusion, and dignity are not optional goals. They are standards that we should all be striving for, and over the past year, he supported several local projects that reflect that belief. Just last month, he joined other legislators in helping fund the second phase of the Butterfly Playground at Nayock Park, a fully accessible play space designed to welcome children of all abilities. In Luzerne County, funding was also secured to renovate the Robert Healy Memorial Playground in Duryea. Those upgrades include inclusive play features that work with mobility devices, making sure no child is left out. In addition to these completed efforts, Senator Flynn has provided ongoing support for grants for organizations serving children, adolescents, and adults with developmental disabilities and emotional or behavioral challenges. Looking ahead, he's staying focused on real solutions that make everyday life easier. He's the prime sponsor of a bill that will let legislative offices like ours to distribute disability placards directly, cutting out most of the lengthy process to help people get what they need faster. He is also leading legislation to add disability designations to both physical and mobile driver's licenses. So whether the disability is physical, intellectual, or communicative, this would help ensure people are properly supported in emergencies or if they're interacting with law enforcement. And he is co-sponsoring a bill to create a purple alert system, similar to the Amber Alert, for people with intellectual disabilities who go missing. On top of all that, he continues to push for better funding for public transit, because access is not only just about infrastructure. Senator Flynn understands how critical transit is for many persons with disabilities who rely on it to get to work, access healthcare, and stay connected with their communities. He's also been a strong advocate for programs like the Office of Long-Term Living and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, which help those with disabilities live independently and thrive. All of these efforts come down to one thing, which is believing in the right of every person to participate fully in their community, not just in theory, but in practice. Senator Flynn is proud to stand with you in that belief, and while progress continues, forums like this one ensure that we keep moving in the right direction together. So thank you again for having me here today and for the opportunity to speak on his behalf. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Victoria. Give him our regards. Okay. Bill, looking down the line, Bill Fox. Bill is here to represent State Representative Kyle Donahue.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Fox. I'm Chief of Staff for State Representative Kyle Donahue, who serves the 113th District of the state. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of Representative Kyle Donahue at this incredible event dedicated to building bridges, forging connections, promoting inclusion, and empowering every individual regardless of ability. When we talk about building bridges for disabilities, we're not just referring to ramps and elevators, though accessibility is vital. We're talking about building bridges of understanding, empathy, opportunity, and respect. We are here to remind the world that inclusion isn't a favor, it's a fundamental right. Today is about recognizing the talents, voices, and contributions of people with disabilities and acknowledging the systems that too often silence or overlook them. Disability is not an inability. Disability is diversity. It's part of a rich human experience, and when we include everyone, we all rise. For example, there's a bill in the House right now, in the State House, that will provide access to integrated workplaces with competitive wages to individuals with disabilities. For too long, individuals with disabilities have been excluded from workspaces, or at times, even legally employed below the minimum wage. This legislation would incentivize change to ensure that people with disabilities are no longer paid a sub-minimum wage and that closed, segregated workplaces are converted into integrated, competitive employment sites. Let us keep building bridge by bridge, person by person, action by action. Let our legacy be the world where inclusion isn't an initiative, it is the norm. Thank you for showing up, thank you for speaking out, and thank you for helping us build something better together. Let's build those bridges, and let's make sure no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. I think we all agree with that sentiment. Next, Representative Jim Haddock. I think this may be one of the first types of these events from at least that our group has had that you have been to, so we appreciate your participation today.
Well, thank you, Keith. And I do congratulate you and your committee for the work that you do every day. And then to put something of this caliber, because education is good for all of us. And to hear from our friends with intellectual disabilities and autism and see what they need is important for guys like me, because when I go to Harrisburg, then I know to keep the fight going for our friends in this community. So I thank you for this. It is an awesome roundtable so far. You know, I'm going to say I serve Luzerne and Lackawanna County, and I'm going to say this. Unfortunately, I've never attended something like this in Luzerne County. So I am greatly impressed by your work. Thank you for what you do. You know, so much was talked about today, and a lot of this line items, it comes to money. And in our budget in Pennsylvania, we've heard a couple of the line items and some of the funding to support this community. The ADA Act was just celebrated 35 years, somebody said that, right? There's another event, another birthday was just celebrated. Medicaid was just 60 years old yesterday. This community is supported by Medicaid. Very important. In Pennsylvania, we're trying to do more for our friends on Medicaid and Medicare. Unfortunately, in Washington, it's under attack. It's terrible. It comes down, as I said, to the money. And think of that. Think of the strides we heard today, that the ADA program, 35 years, how far we've come. But all those line items that we talked about, some of the pave cuts, some of the equipment in our parks that our children could enjoy, come down to money. And what's going on in Harrisburg today is a fight over money. The budget should have been done on June 30th. I'm glad to say I'm a member of the House. I'm glad to say I'm a member of the majority party. The governor rolled out his address in February. June 30th was our deadline to pass our budget. It's not done yet, because the governor's budget and the House budget increased many line items to support many advocacy groups, including this community of our friends with intellectual disabilities and autism. I'll give you a couple of line items. $227 million we spend for Medicaid and CHIP. $20 million for mental health. $217 million, the actual line item for intellectual disabilities and autism, and $55 million for child care. That totals, in just those line items, $519 million, and they've been increased by the House of Representatives and Governor Josh Shapiro in our ask for the budget. That budget's stuck in the Senate. We just wasted the month of July fighting the budget to bring more money for these needed programs. I think it was Robert Walsh. I'm so impressed, Robert. Thank you for coming here today. I am glad. In the old days before ADA, you'd be home. You wouldn't have that chair. You would not have that interpretation equipment that allowed you to speak to us today. I want to say thank you. I give you hats off. Thank you for being here. But that equipment costs money. And as a member of the legislature, I know it's my responsibility to decorate the mahogany, as my father used to say, and pay the price for needed equipment like that to support our friends. Don't you all agree? Yes. A couple of people talked about transportation. A huge fight in Harrisburg. How many of our friends that are here today, if I could show of hands, with disabilities have used mass transit here in Lackawanna County? Harold's hand was first up, right? How many of us here know people that use mass transit here in Lackawanna County? Another fight. Simply COLTS, just their budget, $11 million will come home to Lackawanna County with what I voted for and what our state reps have already voted for. That 11 million, thank you, Harold. That $11 million includes a $2 million increase for COLTS. COLTS is more than buses. It's the Share Ride program. More targeted to get people to their actual doctor's appointments. Veterans, our disabled, our elderly. I am glad to put that vote up. Fund our mass transit throughout the state. And it's not just COLTS. 64 out of 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania have mass transit. And people say, oh, if money goes to Philly. No, $11 million is coming home here to Lackawanna County, and my other half of my district in Luzerne County, the same story between LCTA and Hazelton has, so there's 2 transit authorities in Luzerne County, and they're getting combined $13.5 million. So when I put up that tough vote, I put that vote up, bringing home $25.5 million back to the 2 counties that I serve. And by the way, that was a simple vote, because Governor Shapiro took, instead of raising our sales tax, he took a section of that sales tax and he slid the money over to earmark it for these valuable programs. No increase, no budgetary increase. It's existing funds. He's reappropriating it. We're reappropriating it in the House of Representatives, and it's stuck in the Senate. That was a fight, mostly along party lines. Don't know why. But to get, and maybe we'll hear later on, the great things that COLTS, to get a bus that's ADA equipped, or to get that van to do that share ride, it's more expensive than a regular van, but it's needed. And I know that. And I'm glad to be here, and I thank you for a couple minutes to speak. Great, and we look forward to keep this going. And thank you. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Again, very timely and relevant comments, and that's great that you kind of, as the lawyers say, you opened the door about issues with the state budget, because I know that I'm sure that that's on the minds of people here. You know, quite simply, you know, what's the expectation? When will we get a budget? But again, we want to again thank you. So we'll move on. I'm proud and pleased to introduce now my state representative for the district in which I live, State Representative Bridget Kosierowski.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon. And yes, I have the privilege of calling Keith Williams my constituent. So when he calls or emails our office, we all do as we're told, right, Keith? So thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. Clearly here in a room full of advocates, and that's what we need. And I'm really privileged to be here and speak to all of you today. Many of the comments that were made to my colleagues here on the right and left, clearly I could start to talk about more or highlight more. But you know, yesterday I had the privilege of being at a ribbon cutting at a park in Weston with Frank. Where's Frank? Frank and Maury. Maury from the ARC is here with us, and summer camp is held there. And the park was opened. There's lots of ADA accessible features. So, you know, we continue to do things that, you know, include, I think our Commissioner Gaughan said something earlier. Was it President Reagan who said?
Bush.
It was Bush. Was it Bush? Okay, I dated myself a little bit. President Bush. You know, the shameful walls of inclusion. And I think seeing these children at a camp yesterday and being able to be with other kids and being able to play and use the equipment just as other children are able to do is really important. So thank you for what you do, Mari, and the ARC and this camp. I grew up here, and gosh, this was in the 80s. I don't know if anybody here remembers Keystone, the Keystone residence on North Washington Avenue. So my Aunt Rebecca Quinn worked there in the 80s, and I was with her. She would take me with her in the summertime to go to the camp. And there was a big van that they had. And the residents it was really challenging for these kids with any kind of disability, whether it be physical or mental, to be able to go anywhere. And my parents had a home on, anybody know where Music Lake is up in Jefferson Township? So these kids, my Aunt Rebecca would take them up to the lake. And there was we called it the public beach house. And it had a big dock, and lots of kids would be able, but the children that lived up there at the lake, they loved when my Aunt Rebecca would come up with the van of the kids because, you know, these kids were not included in our schools. You didn't see them out at the mall. You didn't see them in the movie theater. You didn't see them out to dinner. And I think it was really important for us to grow up with the kids that were at the residence at Keystone. And I think that's part of the inclusion. I think that's part of, you know, 35 years ago, Dale, I think we're celebrating the Disability Act. These are important things for us to do, and I think lots of this stuff comes down to, you know, accessibility, advocating, but it's funding. And Representative Haddock just spoke about the budget and what we need and what we have to do better at, and it's really important to continue to highlight that. As I grew up here, I became a nurse. I worked with my dad. He's an orthopedic doc, and we took care of kids. I don't know where Lucy is. Where's your daughter, Lucy? She has hot pink crutches, and she has a prosthetic. And, you know, to be able to see these kids just over those many years, 30 some years I've been practicing. I was practicing as a nurse before I ran for office, but I worked with orthopedics, and I worked with lots of kids that were challenged. And we've gotten better at things like accessibility to, you know, stores and getting out of cars and parking lots and the things that you have to really, so you know, when you talk about Lucy and you talk about Dale, you're a huge advocate, so thank you for what you do. Sometimes we have to be exposed or have that part of our lives to be able to become in that role in our you know, professional life. So thank you for what you do. I wanted to highlight one thing before. You know, I serve on the aging committee, and on any of us who live here in Lackawanna County, we have an aging population, older adult population. We are really blessed with our Secretary, Jason Kavulich. He is the Secretary of Aging. He is a huge advocate for what we challenge, and again, funding, accessibility, but we opened the Older Adult Advocacy Center, and it opened in May. It's the first of its kind here in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to read a little bit about what it does because I had the chance to go and tour. It's located at Telespon Senior Services. It offers emergency housing, legal advice, safety planning, emotional support, and health, navigating health care and financial aid for older adults and disabled individuals in crisis in Lackawanna County and the surrounding counties. So, you know, that's a little highlight of what we get to do here, what we get to fund, what we get to support, but there's challenges everywhere. And I am really grateful for the people to my right and left and what they do, and certainly you here in the room, being here today, listening, advocating. So it's a pleasure to be here. We need to continue to highlight. We're going to get to hear from Tim McGrath because it's transportation. Transportation was a huge, huge problem, a huge challenge for our patients to be able to get home. And when they got home, a lot of our patients, their own individual homes was difficult for them to get into, and that was their house. So you can imagine just getting out of the house and going out into the public. So I'm so grateful to be here today and talk about these things. We have a great team here that continues to advocate and do things that we need to improve the community for everybody. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, Bridget. Mayor Cognetti, thank you. We know that you have a busy schedule today, Mayor. Thank you for your attendance and being able to participate. We arranged that. I appreciate that. Next, I want to call up another advocate, from our area for people with disabilities is State Representative Kyle Mullins, who has been very involved in support of disability issues, and in fact is a sponsor of some interesting disability-related legislation. Kyle?
Thank you very much, Keith, and thank you to everyone for being here today. I'm very grateful to have so many friends in this room and to know the community advocates who we have here. We are very blessed in this area to have people like Keith Williams and the advisory committee always fighting for more accessibility and inclusive communities. And I think it is important that we review some of the successes or the real wins, as Dale put them. But I also think there is the collective recognition, and perhaps this is even more important, that our work to make our communities more inclusive, compassionate, accessible is far from finished, and we should not feel satisfied, but rather re-energized to seek input from those with disabilities and those who care for them, and keep fighting for progress. You know, when we approach our jobs, our responsibilities as legislators, I kind of break it down into three buckets. There's the funding piece, which we talked about. There's our constituent service operations and efforts that we run locally. And then, of course, there is our legislative activism. When we take community input and bring it to Harrisburg and try to turn a good idea into a law. You know, one of my favorite stories or anecdotes dates back to my college president. She's now retired, but she once shared with me the story of an interview she heard with a monk who had started feeling he wasn't sufficiently grateful for the everyday blessings that he lives with. So he started putting little red sticky dots on things like the light switch, because he's able to stand up and turn a light on and have electricity to do so. Putting little red sticky dots on his shoes because he's able to walk. Soon enough, his quarters, his room, and his residence was covered in red dots. So I think unless you have a disability or care for someone or love someone who has a disability, you can take for granted certain blessings that we have. You know, it wasn't until my father was diagnosed, declined, and passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease that I understood and got to see firsthand all of the gaps that still remain as far as accessibility and safety in our communities, in our world, in our facilities. So I think this is, of course, this is our charge, this is our responsibility as public officials, but I also know that everyone up here has probably loved or cared for someone with a disability. So this is and should be personal to everyone in this room, at the microphone or in our seats. So when I go back to those three buckets that I approach our responsibilities with, there is the funding piece, and we've heard the various successes of increases at the state level, the real threats that were just passed and enacted and further threatened at the federal level, and that we still have work to do in Harrisburg. And also back here at the local level, I know my fellow officials are always advocating for and fighting for grant dollars to make sure that we are funding accessibility projects. When I think of our constituent services efforts, I think it was mentioned earlier by Victoria and Senator Flynn's office about all of the work that we do on behalf of those with disabilities, from disability placards on out. We are always trying to find new ways to serve this community, and to make sure that our district offices and our state capitol building are fully accessible to those relying on mass transit and to those with special transportation or accessibility needs. And then finally, as far as legislative activism goes, there are those wins, and Christine Bush touched on a number of important ones that we have passed into law, and there are many things that we still have to do. But I think Representative Haddock was being modest. I won't call him forgetful, I'll call him modest, in that he helped to lead the charge on one of his own bills that he didn't even mention. That was signed into law as Act 143 of 2024, modernizing the Sign Language Interpreter and Translator State Registration Act. So I wanted to just commend him for that, that there are those real wins, there are those tangible wins. But it is so important that we never feel satisfied, that we never feel our work is done. So in closing, I just think it's important to put ourselves in the shoes or take the perspective of those who were pioneers of the fight for greater access for those with disabilities, and how far we have come since that initial enactment of the ADA, how far we've come since then, and then importantly, what will those changes be that we can look back on 35 years from now? Right? What will those increased and improved accommodations be when we get to look back in another 35 years? So I think this is a very good group and a very good room to start with. Thank you all.
Great, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate your help. Tim McGrath is up next. Tim is the CEO of COLTS, the County of Lackawanna Transit System.
Sorry, Keith, would you like to meet, the mayor's ready? Would you like to speak first? I think she was next.
We just
checked
checked with her before and said, yeah, unless you'd rather.
No, I don't want to step on anybody's toes.
We can just go back.
Yeah.
Go back and forth.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Tim. We checked with that when the mayor came in. We heard, just real quickly before, we heard transportation mentioned before, just a little while ago, in a couple of instances actually with our speakers, how key and how integral it is to maintaining and, in a lot of cases, increasing the independence of people with disabilities. And there are several of us in this room who know that and who are regular paratransit and in some cases fixed route system passengers of COLTS, and we rely upon the transportation and enjoy the quality of service that's afforded to people with disabilities. Tim?
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to begin by thanking the Lackawanna County Disability Action Committee for having us here today and convening this very important and critical conversation, but also especially thank Commissioners Gaughan and Chermak and our good friend Keith Williams, who sits on our advisory committee, Citizens Advisory Committee, for ensuring that COLTS and transportation is represented here today. So when but before I want to get in, there's so many thoughts running now, and Representative Haddock brought up and what you're bringing up about budget, I'll speak to it in a little bit, but the idea of how it's funded and what it gets spent on is so complex we can't begin to unravel it here today, but I'll speak to that a little later. But before I begin, I would certainly like to recognize and thank our entire state delegation. And beginning with Senator Marty Flynn, who it was mentioned earlier, is the chair of the Senate, he's the minority chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, but as well as Senator Brown, and this entire delegation over here, who is as fierce and dedicated a team that you'll ever come across in Harrisburg. And I can say that because I meet with different constituencies on their end on numerous occasions. And I can tell you they fight, they advocate, and they are dedicated in every aspect, and we are very appreciative of that. And it is critically important, goes back to the ultimate issue here, funding, and they are tremendous supporters of ours. I would also mention the mayor. While we don't get direct funding from the city of Scranton, their team is very inclusive of everything they're doing and let us know and let us collaborate, as well as they're very supportive of all of our endeavors, so we greatly appreciate that. I bring that up, and I wanted to recognize them because it's difficult to encapsulate in just 5 minutes. So when people ask, like, what is COLTS? And it's very confusing to people because by name, it's the County of Lackawanna Transportation System. However, COLTS is in fact an independent authority that operates through the funding of PennDOT, FTA, and graciously through the matching funds of the County of Lackawanna. So with that, people think that we just kind of operate in this world of COLTS, but what that funding brings and requires that we do is operate in concert with the guidelines and the regulations that are put forth by the FTA, by PennDOT, and to a lesser degree, we try and, work with the county as best we can where we can. So to describe it, we look at COLTS and you break it down into what I consider three basic public-facing facets of the company. There's our fixed route, which many of you know, or people refer to as the big buses. And as their name infers, they're on fixed routes. They're dedicated to the main routes throughout the county, provide routine service on a daily basis. Of course, many of you here are familiar with the shared ride. Shared ride, which is obviously a little more complex, is referred to as, they call it the vans, or the small buses. And that is a program that provides curb-to-curb service. So this gets convoluted even. What is the responsibility? What can we do as far as service? Oftentimes people ask, well, you need to wheel me into my home because I don't have anybody there. And quite frankly, we're not permitted to. And people don't realize that. But there's a lot of little nuances. But shared ride is dedicated to, and primarily comprised of providing rides to our senior population, obviously those with disabilities, and then those folks who are on low income and meet a certain criteria, which is often referred to the MATP program. The third facet, and not often recognized, is we do subcontract out some of our services, so people will get confused. They'll see buses and they say, well, that's COLTS. It is, but they are in true measure subcontractors. That is primarily in the form of extended fixed route service. That's why it's hybrid. It serves both fixed and shared route, if you can all follow the bouncing ball. So fixed route, it provides some later night, evening service that we don't have that runs throughout the city, mostly dedicated to that area. And then on Saturdays, it provides support. It supplements our ADA program, primarily servicing our clients who are in need of dialysis or immediate daily medical attention. Well, when Keith asked me to speak today, he suggested that we stay focused on shared ride for obvious reasons, and provide any key updates that we thought might be interesting. So very quickly, I'll just start by giving you a couple key statistics. Shared ride operates in all of Lackawanna County, a service area of 458 square miles, and sometimes we go beyond that. Shared ride provides approximately 500 trips daily. That's 500 clients, give or take. And more than 126,600 trips annually, according to 2024 numbers. Making up those trips is the senior population in Lackawanna County, 44,000, and also a constituency of approximately 3,500 people who have been identified as persons with disabilities. We have a fleet of 37 vans currently, all equipped and fitted to take upwards of 4 wheelchairs at one time. And then we have a workforce of 40 operators. It does not include dispatchers, schedulers, admin staff, and other team members, directors who support this whole effort. But while that all sounds interesting, good maybe, for the layperson who doesn't really know what's going on, the elephant in the room is that shared ride across the state, and no different at COLTS, operates at a deficit every year. At COLTS, we see almost $1 million a year. We operate at a deficit. There's many reasons for that. It's very complex to try and describe, but we're not the only agency. This is statewide. The good news is folks like here that are seated at this table, that are finally, trying to lead the charge that something has to be done with this program. Compensation rates aren't up where they need to be. There's going to probably have to be some painful decisions in the future. Fares have never kept pace with inflation, but I don't want to get into all that here today. But as you think about that for a moment, I just would finish my comments by bringing up two key updates. The first is probably really going to make your head spin. While we are very excited and pleased to announce that we have just transitioned into our new headquarters off of North-South Road, which was for all intents and purposes a $61 million project funded primarily through PennDOT, again, with funding coming from the federal and local matches. And you say, well, wait a minute, how do you have a $61 million project and yet you're running at a deficit in your shared ride program? Allocation of funds, in which our state representatives can attest. Capital funding, which is projects like those, bottomless, endless, almost. You get money for just about everything if it's a capital project. Operationally, which Representative Haddock was referring to earlier today, has not changed there's been no increase in probably close to 20 years now in giving funds to operations. We cannot take capital funds to fund our operations. We can only get, and that's the funding that comes in from the federal and state, we can only apply that to day-to-day operations. So without that, we do pull monies from different areas and we're able to offset those deficits. But it kind of demonstrates the complexity of this operation, that you think, well, there's all this money available, just put it here, move it around. We don't have that luxury. We're constrained by the regulations placed on the funding. So I hope I'm not making that sound too sad, but one key thing I want to know, especially for those who utilize our service on a day-to-day basis, we just completed a 1.5-year long technical assistance grant in which we looked at our shared ride. We knew there was problems. We knew we probably were not operating at peak efficiency. So we spent the last 1.5 years with PennDOT, with special consultants, and we've gone through a very rigorous examination and restructure of our entire shared ride operation. And we are nearing completion, which now will go with some training. So we would ask that you have some patience, but we believe that the end result will be us operating more efficiently, providing better service, and hopefully everybody has a better experience from it. So thank you again for having us here.
All right.
Wait, you didn't get
Yes.
introduced
Oh.
yet.
I just want to speed it up. We want to hear from you all. So.
No, you need no introduction. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you, Keith. In Scranton, we are proud of the work that we've done. Just yesterday, cutting a ribbon with many of our great representatives up here on a park that has 88 facilities. NAOG has a new butterfly park that is accessible for kids, and we're working on a phase 2 again with our representatives and their folks to try to make sure we get those funds. We're excited to be adding a lot of those features in the parks. We're excited for the streetscaping and curb cuts and progress that we've made, crosswalks that are more clear, progress that we're making on the streets. We're looking forward to having our buildings be more accessible and looking for ways that City Hall itself could potentially expand and be truly accessible. But we know it's not enough. We know, to Tim's point and others, about funding. Funding is always really tough. If I could redo every single curb cut and every single sidewalk in this city, I would do it today. That's a tough thing. So we need your voices, we need your advocacy, we need you all to hold us accountable. We need the push and pull of you all recognizing that we can't fund everything that we truly need for our residents across the city, across the county, but we want to do everything we can do, and with your voices, with your advocacy, with you guys holding us and others accountable, I think that we can continue to make great progress. So we appreciate this platform and having us all here, and Keith, of course, we thank you for your leadership.
Great. Thank you, man. Thank you for your support. We look forward to seeing more curb cuts, accessible parks, and accessible facilities and grounds in the city of Scranton. Okay, now it is your turn. We appreciate everybody for their input, different perspectives on disability issues, and we want to provide our audience with the opportunity to ask a question. make a comment. It could be about funding, it could be about a facility, a building, a program, service. I'll introduce you to two of our Disability Action Committee members who'll be walking around with the mic. To my left is Nikki. Straight in front of me is Marion. So just indicate to us if you have a question or a comment in whichever manner is easiest for you. If you want to raise a hand, if you want to shout out, we're flexible. There's one right on the hair.
I think this is interesting because I have an invisible disability. Somebody mentioned that. Okay. I have an invisible disability. I'm legally blind. So if they gave me the microphone, so out of all of these people, so it's kind of funny. So this is what you can do. You can jump up and say woo woo, or you can just stand up. And if you have a question, please, give your name and to whom you want the question addressed, okay?
The gentleman to your left.
So who in the front, I can't see you over there. Okay, so who over here?
The gentleman to your left in the tan had his hand up first.
Thank you.
My name's Harold Cameron, the People's Advocate, I'm a consumer advocate and government liaison with Harold Says. Very important for the senators. 1 year ago, maybe 2, the budget wasn't passed. Do you know that caregivers in Lackawanna County were still cleaning bottoms, picking up messes, and they weren't getting paid, and they weren't getting paid, and they weren't getting paid. And when they do get paid, it's only $15 an hour. With the help of these wonderful people here and raising a lot of noise, we were able to get money allocated to help those people. So I want to say thank you, and maybe what more can we do to convince the senators? It's not about politics, it's about people. I have a caregiver. I have one of those kind of disabilities that you don't see it, but it's very real. He didn't get paid for 3 months or 4 months, but he didn't pack up. But how many people quit? I'm hearing. They can't do this. It's their livelihood, and $14, $15 an hour. What can we do to convince the Republicans and the Democrats, whoever, to say, look it, these people are caring for your mothers, grandmothers, daughters. And if I might just say one more thing, and then I'll be done. One of the things that I recently did, I walked into a church, I was new there, I met a lady, I talked to her. She is waiting for a kidney. 6 years waiting for a kidney. Found out in 22 she was dropped from the kidney list, donor list, didn't know. I said, maybe I can help you. Went home, and I give glory to God. I went home, made one call, I got her a donor. I know the CEOs and all the people at Geisinger. And I told her, and then she found out she was cut from the donor list. She's disabled. She's dying, okay? She doesn't get a kidney, she's dead. So I found out that she was cut, called back the CEO's office at Geisinger, got her back on the plan. Then they rejected her, they couldn't do it because she's a high risk. Well, here's the good news. Because of folks like you funding these kind of things and COLTS, transportation, going to places where they can't get a ride, she is approved by Geisinger, and if everything works out, the donor and her are compatible, she's going to get a new kidney at UPenn in Pennsylvania. So thank you for what you're doing. What you do matters. Please help us get more money for caregivers and make sure that if they're not able to be paid from the state, maybe the county can do something to fund that until the state gets their money. Keith, thank you very much, and thank you, and God bless you for your work. All of you here. Thank you, dear.
Oh, and I'm a COLTS cheerleader. Okay, I have to say that. I'm a COLTS cheerleader every chance I get, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for COLTS and my friends. So,
Okay,
yes,
as I make my way over to another person, I too am disabled. I have overlapping autoimmune disease, as many of you know, is lupus. So I get this gentleman here. She has one too. He had his hand up first. Trying to keep everybody even.
My name is Marty McKeel. I'm a legally blind person who lives in Lackawanna County, and I walk a lot of the neighborhoods. We talk about cutouts, and still to this day, they're putting in new curbs and cutouts and paving streets, and they still put them in the wrong way.
And you mentioned it to them. I've been fighting in the town I live in for 2.5 years. I've gone all the way to representatives, I've gone to the borough, and then I keep going back and forth, and still to this day, nobody seems to want to help with the situation. Like, when do we get to a point that we're going to just make sure initially when this stuff is put in, it's done correctly? I get it, money is the key. But if they're inspected and make sure before this concrete and pavement is put down that they're correct, we wouldn't have this issue.
Which borough do you live in?
No, yeah, Ryan. Taylor.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Marty. I'm directly familiar with your advocacy. Red tape and laws. So the one thing you said, on new installations, when they're putting them in today, curbs and sidewalks, thankfully, because of the bill that was passed 35 years ago, they will be put in correctly when new construction happens. The problem for our friends that have eye difficulties or even just walking difficulties, it'll be done correctly to ADA standards. The issue that is ongoing is that existing, it becomes, the law kicks down, even on a state road, even on a side road, even on a county road. It goes back to the original borough that takes the lead of the project. Then it comes down to money. So in Taylor Borough, and I've had this conversation with your elected officials, they have to ask. They have to come up with the areas in question, and again, it's money on their part, but sometimes there's grants and there's different things that can happen. And it truthfully becomes, you have to stay in your lane between the state and, in this case, the borough. The borough has to say, yes, we're going to do this. Now, if they can't afford it, they can come to guys like myself and Senator Flynn that serves Taylor with us. We will advocate and see what kind of money's out there. These are tough problems on existing sidewalks, and as you know, our infrastructure has been put in, up to 200 years ago, and we're paying the sins of the past, but we're living the nightmare today. So again, I'll circle around with the borough officials one more time and see if we could get them to apply for some money.
Okay, so my question then to you would be, initially when it was put in, why was it not inspected before, or inspected when the job was complete, and the contractors that our tax dollars all paid for?
Yeah, but how long ago? There's the fight.
There's pavement that's being put in now that is still incorrect. The cutouts walk me into the middle of the street. As being a visually impaired and blind person, you're going to walk them into the middle of the street. How is that safe for them? That just shouldn't be. Like, we all fight, and we're talking about being safe.
Again, Marty, to nail this down, sidewalks, not the road. When the road's repaved, that's a different project. What has to be addressed, and when this gets addressed, is a sidewalk project. And I'll tell you right now, unfortunately, look, it's not our job as a state representative to tell a borough how to run their borough, or tell the county. We are to support that local borough. In Duryea, recently, they just finished a wonderful project. It was through multimodal, through a PennDOT grant, and the Borough of Duryea applied for grants. They received with the advocacy of actually my predecessor, I'll be honest. Goes back to Michael Carroll. they got the grant, and Duryea Borough just did a major part of Duryea, and they got new sidewalks and new curbing. All those curbs and sidewalks that were replaced, curbs and sidewalks, not the main street, but the curbs and sidewalks were put in to ADA standards. And to your question, yes, they were inspected. In fact, one of them wasn't done right, and they had to do a re-over on the contractor. He didn't follow, and the contractor quickly came in, redid it, no extra money. He didn't do it to spec. That problem was fixed. But
So the contractors have to follow an engineer
Yes.
that's ADA?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It
yes.
shouldn't be like that. It sounds
So at this
So-
point, who do I go to? At
the
this
borough,
point?
the borough has to be the driver
And then
on this.
the borough is refusing, it keeps kicking me back to the state. So who do I go to? You tell me who I go to, I'll go and fight that. I've been fighting this 2.5 years.
And I appreciate that, and again, it's the borough must take the lead. It's the borough that handles the sidewalks.
If I may interrupt, then you call Disability Rights Pennsylvania. This is Dale Verchick.
Here we go.
Thank you, Dale.
Then you call
Dale.
us, Disability Rights Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get her, yeah, we'll get her then.
Thank you, Marty. We'll get you Dale's phone number.
No, go ahead. Yes, hi, my name's Borgo. Can you hear me? I've been involved in the disability community pretty much my whole life. I worked in group homes, was a special education teacher. I took care of my mother in a wheelchair for a great many years, so that perspective. And now I gradually became disabled myself. And since the ADA was enacted, I see things, the wonderful things like the accessible playgrounds, and then other things have like no change at all in the 4 years or however long it's been since the ADA was enacted. Things are not being built, or things are not being built to code. I want to give you 2 examples of problems. There's a restaurant which has very good food. There's Sibio's in Dunmore, if any of you are familiar with it. But the only way to get in is, there's like about 8 steps to get in. Recently had to go to 2 funeral luncheons there. I could only get in with assistance. I was talking to the owner, and said, well, why can't you put in like at least like a stair glide so people could get up the steps? And he said that he was not allowed to put that in. He had a vestibule, which pretty much was not really being used. Could easily, have had a elevator put in. He said he tried to get an elevator put in. Now, just to have like an elevator like you'd put in a home or something like that would not be excessively expensive. He was telling me all the problems that he had with not sure what agencies, but not being acceptable for him to put in. They wanted something like $100,000 for him to spend to put in whatever met specific requirements. And so the end result is that there's nothing. And I was wondering is there any agency that could help businesses that do want to make their places more accessible instead of getting in the way and preventing it from being more so. And I do have another issue too, but I'd like to have, if anybody wants to answer that first.
There's programs available
I have another
that we can, actually, yes, first of all, Sabio's has delicious food, so you are correct. But there are, and I know the restaurant, and there are programs available that we can kind of maybe even talk to them directly about accessing funding for a lift of some sort. Now, putting elevators in buildings is outrageously expensive, but just like some sort of a lift or an access for people that have a little bit of a challenge to get up those stairs, that's something we certainly can do. Good. Kyle Mullins here to my left is the representative in Dunmore, Pennsylvania. So yeah, the two of us, we can work on giving them some information, yes.
Okay, my other issue is, okay, Walmart and Taylor, which the whole entire store was built long after the ADA was enacted. Last month, I was using one of their electric scooters to get around the store, and I tried to get into the restroom. It's a very angular kind of entrance, and I hit my leg, and I badly injured my leg. You know, I had to go to the ER because my whole leg turned purple. It was like I had it was called a muscle bruise, and it was extremely painful. It was taking like 2 months to heal. But I filed a report with them, and their attitude was just that, well, I shouldn't have tried to get in. You know, I had to use the restroom, and they said, well, I shouldn't have tried to get in the restroom. If I'm having trouble go around the corner, I shouldn't have tried to get in. And that was their only answer. They're not making any accommodations. I said, well, you didn't have a sign or anything, you know, trying to take the card in. If you didn't want people getting in, you should at least have a sign warning of the dangers, but no, that was just their only attitude was, oh, you shouldn't have tried to get in. You shouldn't have tried to get into the restroom. I mean, that's utterly ridiculous, especially when the whole entire store was built long after the ADA was enacted. And what I find is that usually that amounts to, you know, putting grab bars in your toilet. Issue that I found a lot with my mother when she was in a wheelchair is, as an afterthought, people will put in the soap dispensers and towels, and they're like 5 feet off the ground, so people in a wheelchair can't possibly use them. I don't know how many times I had to, you know, put soap in my hand and then rub it onto her hand because she couldn't reach the soap dispenser. As my mother in the wheelchair. And this is, you know, it's unacceptable that there should be like a final inspection or you know, if something is constructed or remodeled, that these different issues are in compliance with ADA requirements, and there's not. And, you know, I don't understand why it's still, you know, so many years after ADA was enacted, that there still is not more encouragement for private businesses, more accountability for, you know, restrooms or something being built to be accessible. And, you know, the same thing we're talking about, curb cuts too, that they're either not compliant with the grade, yeah, or they're you know, way at the end of the street. If you're in a shopping center, it's difficult for me to walk. It's painful for me to walk now when I have to go like half a block to be able to use a curb cut to get into the store instead of having anything that's like closer to the entrance. And you know, like who is responsible for these issues?
First of all, I'm really sorry to hear of what you went through. The right way to handle that, if I'm Walmart, is not to tell you that the answer was to not try to use the facilities. And that is something, Dale, is that also something where the Disability Rights Network would be able to at least advise on, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
People call us all the time for all kinds of questions, and
Okay.
we're happy to answer.
But then as far as enforcement of compliance and construction. You know, at the federal level in the state, we pass the code, we pass the regulations, and state and federal statute dictates that. But it is then on the local code enforcement authorities to make sure that those things are built and maintain code compliance.
So it'd be city inspectors, which apparently there are not sufficient numbers to actually come around and check them.
Yeah. You know, the couple of examples that you gave were not government buildings. So one thing that we have a lot more control over is a government building. And it comes down to money, and it comes down to compliance and regulation and red tape. And in government, unfortunately, a lot of these issues, the fight becomes people want to deregulate. People don't want to put omens on private industry to do the right thing. And there's a philosophical difference between parties of who will take big business on. And, you know, even Dale said she named a couple of lawsuits. Nothing gets big businesses, unfortunately, attention like a lawsuit or an official complaint. And that's sad. At the end of the day, it's a hard truth. You are right. If that building is built today, it'll be by today's standard. I will tell you that in past, codes have been constantly, building codes, when I say codes, have been enhanced because of stories like your own and people bringing it to the attention of the lawmakers, who then take the fight to the floor of their body and say, we got to do better. And the code book, they have been increased. Now at Walmart, maybe at the time, that particular doorway you talked about might have been, and maybe the inside of the bathroom might have been built to code. Now it's grandfathered. Not sure, I'm taking just an educated guess. And the new codes, the doors are wider. But even during ADA, we didn't understand it as a country. 35 years ago, we weren't building the buildings that we're building today. And we did not understand, number one, the people were unfortunately not going out in public as much. That's why ADA started, because you need it and you should have been out in public. So these codes got increased and enhanced during this process, and they're still being adjusted for cases like yourself to say, hey, that door has to be wider today. And that's new construction. Retrofitting old construction is harder to govern. And there's not an appetite for it a lot of times on the federal level and even on the state level, as much as we try, to get that over the hump. It takes, whether it's the House, in the Senate, in the Congress, or in the State House, and then of course it has to go to the President or the Governor. It takes 3 bodies that govern to pass this, and sometimes all 6. It has to be a federal and a state to get it in line. But they've been getting better. That didn't help you with your accident, and it's terrible, like Kyle said, you know, sorry that you went through that, but that's why you telling your story to us puts a face and a human aspect on it, and that's something when that comes up, and I'm on the Labor and Industry Committee, and we go to pass good bills to make our buildings in Pennsylvania more ADA compliant, I could put a face with a name. and tell your story at those committee meetings at the first step, and then maybe even on the House floor to get better laws passed. These aren't quick fixes. It's a lot of money, and there's a lot of red tape.
Excuse me. Jump in here. Keith, as Keith can appreciate, I have some background in property management, including retail. So let me say categorically, I'm not placing blame. I can't do that, but it is a violation. If there's a violation that exists within those facilities, you need to bring it to their attention or bring it to code enforcement, and it has to be acted upon. Well, like to Jim's point, excuse me, Representative Haddock's point, if it's grandfathered in, which we're not talking about, there is time. As soon as they touch it, they have to update it. So whatever went in post, and this I believe was obviously construction, as I'm familiar with it, after the fact, you need to get your local code enforcement, and if not, then you need to continue to push it up the food chain. But it is something, if they're not in compliance, they have to fix it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roseanne Polishin. I'm a parent of a 21-year-old son with intellectual and developmental disability. I also work as an advocate for the ARC of NEPA, and I want to thank all you guys on the panel for just addressing these different issues for people with disabilities. It's so important. But I really wanted to just bring to attention just about employment for people with intellectual and developmental disability. I know my son recently graduated or aged out of the education system, and he has pretty significant disabilities, but he does enjoy staying busy and work, and he wants to work. And it really is a challenge to get any type of employment for people with significant disabilities that need job coaching, that need a lot of redirection, a lot of prompting, you know, to stay on task. And I had to work really, really hard to get him meaningful. He does have some employment and a fulfilling days, a time to spend his days doing things that are meaningful and important to him and enjoyable to him, get the funding in place, find the staff, manage all that, and to also, I want to stay employed and my husband wants to stay employed. So my ask would just be to keep working on trying to find incentives for people to hire people, because there's funding cuts with OVR. And even when there wasn't funding cuts, when do those, job trainings and shadowing and paid work experiences actually turn into paid employment? I work with a lot of people that graduate from school to the couch. They go really great, fantastic transition programs while they're still in high school. They do the employment activities, and then they don't get hired. So I would say that that's a big ask, especially when you're saying, I understand the 14C, sub-minimum wage is not what we think as meaningful to people, but there are people that have been in that 14C that enjoy that work, and they feel like it's adding something to them. So how can we get their wage up to be able to do that type of work still at a wage that they could use for their activities or their fun, so that they're not just, okay, we're out of the 14C, but now we have nothing to do all day. So I just want to encourage people to look at that employment for those folks, so they can still keep their benefits and still make a little bit of money. They have, just like the rest of us, they have a lifestyle to maintain. They want to go out and have fun. They want to go to the movies. They want to go on dates. They want to go places. And how can we get them to be able to do that? I personally think the small businesses is a great avenue to give them incentives, because you build those relationships. Where my son got his job, it's because he did the paid work experience. I worked with my school district to create a transition program with a piece of employment there. And then, is he able to manage full-time hours? No, but he could work a few hours a week doing an activity he understands and contributing to the small business. So I hope we're headed more in that direction as an employment-first state. But I do see that it's starting to go backwards a little bit, where you get the wrong supervisor in there, you get somebody that's not as understanding, and the next thing you know, the person doesn't have the job anymore. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention today, and thank you all very much.
Thanks for being a great mom.
We have one.
Well, good
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeanette Pamphilus. It is great to be here today to talk to you. I have an invisible disability, and my invisible disability is I have IDD and autism. I am definitely here for two things, is that I want to say thank you so much for all of the support you have helped me throughout the last decade I've been here. I really appreciate it so much. And thank you. But the last thing I needed to talk to you about is, it's not me that I need help. I have a friend that needs help. My friend this year was diagnosed with CPTSD, borderline autism, and major depressive disorder. And this has been a very hard challenge for my friend, very, very badly. My friend cannot get help with Medicaid. They don't qualify. My friend has been suffering mentally really badly. He wants to find a job, but he can't find a job because he can't work with people. And this has been a very hard challenge, and this is why I am here today, because my friend has helped me since I was the age of 18. I would have never known about these services if it wasn't for my friend. I wouldn't have gotten help if it wasn't for my friend. I wouldn't be talking right now because my language was really, really not good when I was that age. And I got better over time because of all the help from him and all the help from you, everyone in this room. And this is why I am here today, to help my friend. And I have had tremendous help support, like for example, like Rachel Bucks helped me too. Rosanna's helped me. And the thing is, they have tried OVR, but unfortunately with the budget cuts, they had to kick them off the program. And now it has been a very hard, rough time helping my friend, and I want to help him. And he wants to help. So I'm asking you here, I don't know if there's any programs or any help for my friend that has CPTSD, or anything I could do to help him, but he needs help. Please help me.
Hey, without giving the name, what town does your friend live in?
Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Do you know what street?
Oh, 601 Smith Street.
Okay.
Well, and that definitely needs diagnostic help and getting onto insurance. That seems like it's the first barrier, because then the programs kind of open up a little bit if there's some kind of, we can help.
We think
Kyle
we think that's Bridget's.
Yeah.
Could you get?
You and I can talk.
I get that?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
And I'd just like to make a comment, because I give you a lot of courage. Thank you for showing up today and speaking for your friend. But sometimes we don't celebrate enough our victories. And I just want to say that we have two members of the State House of Representatives that actually have autism, and they openly talk about it. Maybe there's somebody else in the State House that doesn't talk about it, but we have two wonderful state representatives that freely go to the floor and fight, and their advocacies, because they are people with autism, and they openly discuss that. I think that's important to say, that our friends with autism and intellectual disabilities can hold a job and be functional. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Buck, and I could have coordinated with Jeanette. I'm also with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'm the rural coordinator up in Susquehanna County, but as you can imagine, we have nothing up there, so I have to access all their services in Lackawanna. And I actually was also going to talk about the fact that if you do not have medical assistance and you have private insurance, you are left out of a ton of mental health supports and services. I've gone in and out of being stable and working, needing to recover again, and right now I'm in that phase and I can't access anything because I don't have medical assistance. And it's been very difficult getting that support so I can start working again, so I can be okay again, because again, if you don't have medical assistance, you can't get access to a lot of services. I've been on the phone back and forth with Scranton Counseling to see about their CRSU so I don't end up 302'd. And again, it's maybe there's funding available from Lackawanna if your insurance won't cover it. And I'd like everyone to really remember that mental health is important. You know, most of the gun-related deaths in this country are actually suicide. I'm not sure if everybody was aware of that. And suicide rates continue to go up. Wayne County, I know someone mentioned that, actually has the highest suicide gun rate in the state. And these are issues that are affecting everyone, and they're continuing to grow. So just a reminder that, you know, mental health is important, and people are in and out of recovery and may need more support at one time than others, and should be able to access supports and services that are helpful to them.
Anyone else?
Hi. Thank you for all you've done, and I came in a little late, so I'm sure I missed a lot of good stuff. I'm sorry about that. My husband was quadriplegic for over 20 years. He just passed away recently. But there were lots of issues, of course. Something specifically that triggered when I was hearing the COLTS representative mentioning that they're not allowed to wheel into the residence. And I'm sure they said they're making lots of changes, and maybe that's part of it. But can they partner with another agency, Area on Aging, whatever, for trained individuals to help that, even volunteers, you know, that are trained, that could do that, you know? I'd be willing to do that for someone. And I've heard that complaint in the past, and that's why I brought it up. We were lucky enough not to need the COLTS transportation, and I'm very grateful about that. But a problem with going to some local events, the Italian festival, whatever, we love to go, a little tough in a wheelchair. One corner with a mat over it to get up on, it's so crowded because everyone's using it, not just disabled people. Would be helpful to get more onto the sidewalks to go around the square. Also, after you get to the Italian festival, which has happened to us, you know, a lot of things have happened over 20 years, something happens to your vehicle, you break down. Who do you call to get a ride home? How do you get home? Is there a COLTS number for that? I don't think so. Even the local fire department was kind of at odds on how to help us with that. I believe if there's a taxi system, aren't they required to have a certain percentage dedicated to wheelchair accessibility that can handle a wheelchair if you own a taxi system? I don't know about that, but I think there would be something to that. Another problem I see is insurance for people, but not getting the insurance, but help with navigating insurance. A lot of disabled people, well, they're all ages, but elderly people could really use help with that. We did not need that, and we were constantly fighting the insurance, but I'm sure there's lots of people that could help use that somehow. I don't know. But that's all. A few issues.
By way of follow-up, to your point about the wheelchairs, I just want to be clear. We are blessed, and I mean that in every sense of the word, with a truly dedicated workforce. And those of you who have had the opportunity to ride our shared ride program, those drivers take it personally. And they treat their, what we refer to as clients, you know, passengers, they go the extra mile. So if you were to ask me here, do we sometimes take liberties and do things that we're not supposed to. I would say maybe, no. But it is truly, and it makes our job and Kelly's job especially difficult because you have those drivers who want to do it and will do it, and say we can't say it's liability. You know, we talk about insurance liability on the other side. We cannot go in. But have our drivers ever crossed the threshold? Maybe. But so it is a very difficult thing we wrestle with every day, and because we do want to provide the optimum service. But I did have a question. The second point about the after-hours call, I didn't hear the first part of that. Your second?
Somewhere at an event, you got there yourself. How do you get home? Something happens to your transportation.
You're talking about having used shared ride because that's, you're given a timeline in which we operate that. We don't operate that as we do the full. Yeah. Yeah, we're not operational at that time of night. Sorry.
And just to say, in terms of insurance navigation, it's super complicated for everybody, not just people with disability so Telespond, the place I spoke about before, has advocates there to navigate how the barriers with insurance.
Real quickly, one moment, we have one speaker raised their hand there before you, but I do have to jump in just real quickly, touching on something Tim said. And I should have mentioned it earlier. I know a couple other people were reading my mind about the quality of service for the shared ride in COLTS. They do a magnificent job. Everyone from the drivers, and I use it weekdays, as you know, for transportation to and from the SIL. The drivers are friendly, professional, courteous. They have a good sense of humor. They have to pick up passengers like me every day. And the same goes for the office staff as well, for the schedulers and for those people taking the trip reservations or requests, I should say, over the phone. They do a very effective professional job. So kudos to the staff there at COLTS.
That's for you, Kel, and I mean that. She does a wonderful job.
I didn't see her. I heard her. Oh, there. Hey, how are you, Kelly? Hey, good. Bye.
We're not going to be able to get out of here, Kel. We're getting such big heads. We normally don't hear the good things, so this is very, very helpful.
Now, the only thing I'm concerned about with the potential funding cuts is, if you talk to some of the drivers, they'll mention it. I've been advocating for like a coffee service in the back of the vans in the morning. for those morning runs. So when they get me about 8:15, 8:20, we can have a cup of Joe and talk about the day's events and the work. But apparently that.
We never say no. We'll take it under advisement.
All right.
I think I need to start riding these buses.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Brian Nice. Hey, Lindsay, how are you? Keith, how are you? Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you guys for coming out and showing interest in this. I'm a general contractor in the area, but I also run Griff's Nest, which is a nonprofit that renovates homes for people with disabilities. My eyes were open to that world because my youngest son has pretty severe disabilities, and yeah, it's amazing what somebody close to you will show you. But I know we're getting to the end here, so I don't want to take too much time. But one thing that I think we need to bring awareness to, we've talked a lot about government buildings, transportation, common areas, community parks, all that. But a place where people with disabilities spend a majority of their lives is in their homes. And what I've run into recently is we're seeing people with disabilities getting discharged from facilities that are caring for them because insurances aren't covering that any longer, and they're getting discharged to their homes, which they're not accessible for them. They don't meet their needs. They're not functional for them. So we're trying to step in there and do what we can, but finding funding for homes, private homes, that's something that I'm running into. We've worked with Scranton Area Foundation. They've helped us quite a bit. But what can we do to bring more money more funding to organizations, not just like mine, but I'm sure there are others that are helping with people in their actual homes. Some of the things I've seen is just, it's horrible. And again, I'll keep it short, but people are being sent to homes without running water, being sent to home where their only restroom is upstairs and they just had an amputation and can't get to their bathrooms upstairs. You know, these are things that we're running into, and it's a big issue. It's sad, but I'm sure, and again, my organization, it's very young, so I'm learning a ton, but what can we do to help this problem? And I don't know, maybe it's just something to think about, not something you can answer right now, but there is a major need there that we have to address.
Correct. Thank you. It's a huge problem. Yeah. I think this panel up here definitely hears you and would be able to discuss this further, but I think there's two things you said. Private homes. There's lots of people that call us all the time. Hey, I can't step over the bathtub. I'm home, I've been discharged, I can't get, there's all those barriers in their private home, and we want people to age in home. That's where they do the best. That's where they are the safest. They do not have to pay for long-term care or institutionalized care, and that's what insurance is pulling back on. So I'll talk to you after, because I know this is an issue that the county, the state, local, we can do better, but it's the funding to do the fix. And we can't just rely on our foundations. It's not fair for us to have to do that only to rely on the foundations and the good people that have those kind of access to. We need to do better on our end too, so we'll talk.
And if I could, two things I'd like to throw out. One small thing that we were able to do. In the state of Pennsylvania with our lottery fund, which was healthy. 2 years ago, we increased the property tax and rent rebate from, we made it to a maximum of $1,000 depending upon income. And whether you rent or whether you live, we were able to do that. And that's seniors, widows, and disabled people. So that program's out there. That's a small token. It was $380 raise of the maximum to $1,000. And here's again the fight that we fight in Harrisburg. That did not go through with 203 votes. And we sat there, and the state representative to my right turned to me and he said, "How could they vote no? The money was there. We're not raising taxes. Don't they have old? Don't they have disabled?" I don't know. So we were able to do that. Now there's another program that was called Home Hole Repairs. Very popular. It was interministered. The state did it. We gave it to the counties. The counties did it. It was the #1 requested, and this was COVID money that came in during COVID. And it was the #1, one of the top, I don't want to say the top, but it was one of the top for sure, if not the top, requested programs to do exactly what you're talking about. Home hole repairs, whether it was windows for heat, whether it was a handicap, or excuse me, physically disabled ramps or something. And that program was the most popular. And the money dried up 2 years ago, last budget, it dried up. So that it's been a defunct program. And this year, we're glad to say in the House that again, Governor Shapiro's tried to get it back in it's under a different name, but it's $25 million and it's not enough. But the fight and the rhetoric over this $25 million appropriation. And again, it really became a tough vote, really just passed the House, and it's over in the Senate of the House, the state of Pennsylvania, to vote on that as part of the budget process. But it was a wonderful program that put roofs, windows, ADA compliant ramps and bathrooms in people's houses. And just to get a $25 million appropriation throughout the state of Pennsylvania, it was a fight. And we're not even, and we're only halfway through because it's over in the Senate and has to be voted on. So some of the things you're talking about, unfortunately, in government, doesn't resonate with certain people that are elected, which is beyond me. But I'm glad to say everybody I serve with from Lackawanna County voted for that program. And we're hoping that that does not get cut. Well, it's under a new name, but yeah, it's not passed yet. I'll get the acronym for you. Yep. Let me look that up.
Hi, I'm Sarah Spadoni. I'm a licensed behavioral specialist here in Lackawanna County, but I work out of Lackawanna County, but I service individuals in Luzerne County as well. I just have two little specific questions. I know Kristin mentioned this earlier about modified language for insurance companies. So I'm just wondering who determines what is applicable for the modified language and what is acceptable and not acceptable anymore. As somebody who writes treatment plans, and I have used, instead of, let's say, one I got pushback for was high functioning and low functioning.
Mm-hmm.
I use high needs or low needs, which I feel like has been broadened from now, but I've gotten pushback from that. So I just want to know who.
At this time, I think it's AI, to be honest with you, and that's why it always gets pushed back, and you need humans behind the counter at the insurance companies to really know the story, know the diagnosis, and I'll talk to you afterwards about that. I can help you with finding out who you get to really get the correct diagnosis, the correct services, because honestly, I'm not kidding. I think that that's what's happening. There's a lot of AI now that is completely inept. They don't know the human aspect of these patients, the clients. So yeah, we'll talk about that.
Well, and to add from that, another issue that I've had an ongoing chain email from October, because I'm a Leo and I won't put anything down. I have a loud mouth, a loud Italian mouth, and I am a big advocate. So I've been in a long email chain with Optum, the BCBA, who reviewed my client's treatment plan, has been pushing back with me. Like, you don't even know. So it's also people that have older trainings and are not willing to merge into what should be more acceptable and listening to autistic voices and neurodivergent voices. However, the other thing, which kind of more relates to me in the sense of how is pay distributed to service providers with independent service providers? I know that was increased, I think was said. How is that distributed? Maybe I didn't hear it right.
Like home health, like your hands-on bedside caretakers?
No. Oh,
through
is
the
that
insurance?
what it's specifically for?
There's a lot of different wordage on how they bill, but again, this is something you and I, because I sit on the insurance committee in Harrisburg, and this is a huge issue. Because like I said, everybody wants to be safe and age at home and do care at home, but it's being a provider and how you're licensed as a provider and how you're charging as a provider and how we reimburse you as a provider under insurance. So yes, we can chat.
I work with younger autistic youth. I'm in the ABA world, so I'm in schools as well, which is a whole other separate thing that I could go on a tangent about for services, but that's kind of where I fall. So I was just wondering with that.
Okay.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
First thing, we don't know what we don't know. I heard medical assistants. I hear Area Agency on Aging. I deal with people that are told no in Lackawanna County. A lady with diabetes, near death, took a near coma, ending up in Lehigh Valley Hospital. You know, that lady was denied medical assistance, denied Social Security benefits, which I'm a Social Security representative, and I said, what's wrong with this? You know what the bottom line was? Oops, we made a mistake. Here's the thing. There's companies out there on the internet. They don't want you to go to the right website. There are scam brokers. They're telling you to buy this insurance. Folks, what you don't know, you don't know. Here's what you do. You call and you ask questions. Why are you telling me no? Is there somebody above you? You've got to fight for yourself. If you remain silent, you will die, okay? Or you will suffer. I've seen this, and it breaks my heart. Now, I happen to know the directors. I happen to know the people in Harrisburg. And I call and say, why is this person dying? And they check into it. Oops, I keep hearing this. I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. We're talking about people's lives. Education is very important, and it is available on the internet. Again, these good people, this guy here, I'm sorry, but the gentleman at COLTS. I had a driver, and I was supposed to be somewhere, and oops, they made a mistake on my schedule. The driver called dispatch and said, sorry, I'm taking this guy to his doctor's appointment because he's been waiting a long time to get there. And I said, you got to get somebody else. Folks, with local offices, so medical assistance, with insurances like Medicare, confusion. They want you to be confused because they want to give you a cheaper plan that gives you less when you are entitled to plans that may give you more, whatever insurance company you choose to use. But you've got to know. So here's the thing that we really need. We need help, folks, with getting sources online that educate. Don't go here, go here. Don't call them, don't go here. And if you can't get a hold of anybody else other than these dear folks, call me. Because I'll tell you what, like you, I have a big mouth that goes a long way, but I'm kind, I'm positive, I'm patient, I make them laugh. They asked my date of birth. I said I'm old. The pterodactyl meat was delicious. The brontosaurus meat was hard. That's why I got dentures. And you get them laughing. The next thing they go, oh, we could get that approved. So please, work through your representatives. But if you can't get anybody, I'll be glad to give you a business card. And if there's a yes out there for you, I'll find it. I will find it for you or your loved ones and help you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Anyone? Don't be shy. We will fight. Did you have your hand up, Tom?
Actually, my name is Tom Welby. I live in Scranton, and I have a pet peeve that's totally anecdotal, particularly compared to all of the things that our representatives and the days have talked about and all that you all have shared with us today. But I have this curse of not being able to keep my mouth shut. And I just have to talk about this and bring it up. And unfortunately, the entities or entity that is most responsible for doing something about this isn't here. But I have to verbalize it anywhere, and that is the issues that we have. I've lived in Manhattan, in New Jersey, and in other towns, but most of my life has been here in Scranton. And I've never seen as many issues here in Scranton as I have, rather here in Scranton, I see much more than I ever see anywhere else. And that is people parking four wheels up on sidewalks and totally obstructing those sidewalks from people with mobility issues and visual issues. And I live in South Scranton, and every single day I'm up and down Pittston Avenue, Cedar Avenue, and Music Street, and I see these vehicles up on the sidewalks totally obstructing these sidewalks, and someone in a chair, someone in a walker, someone with a visual impairment, and someone with a stroller and a baby carriage at that point has to find a point at which they can exit the sidewalk, and sometimes it's walking a half a block down to find a driveway where they can go out on the street and then walk on Pittston Avenue, Cedar Avenue, Music Street, and so many other areas in our city, and then have to walk down, and with so many people with handheld devices and everything else now, it's so easy for someone to just be distracted this much to the right or left with their vehicle. And it just it's not right. Sometimes they have to walk all the way down to the next curb and then get back on and then continue and maybe hit another vehicle just a half a block down further. And it just drives me insane. I want to do something about it, but I don't see anything being done by the parties that should be doing something about it. So if anyone knows someone here in the city of Scranton that might do something about that, a lot of us would appreciate something being done about it. Sorry, I have to vent.
Add something to that. I got you. Hang on. I've also encountered the same problem with, in the wintertime, with either people not shoveling walks or shoveling to the end of their property, and then from the end of the property to the street is totally blocked in. And this is not just like homes, but businesses downtown even. I've encountered, I'm not sure if it's from the VA Center, but it's on going to the place that does the free meals, the St. Francis of Assisi kitchen. And sidewalks are blocked. People in walkers having to go out in the middle of the street in the winter time when the streets are already narrow because none of the sidewalks are cleared. And you know, there should be, I don't know if there are ordinances, I know there are, that people are supposed to clear their sidewalk within a certain amount of time after a snowstorm, but yet it seems to be an issue of like where their property ends and from the property to the curb, that issue is like totally not addressed at all.
Tim and I are going to get our high school students that are on these snow days to go out and shovel everybody's snow. That's what I'm going to do. Now, they're not going to sleep in, they're going to go, but it is a problem, especially for access to places like you're going to. I know that we'll make a list for the city. Yeah, this is, for them. Yeah. It's an issue.
Anyone else?
I just want to bring up one more thing about the crosswalks. It's not only Taylor, it's throughout the whole county. I've walked through the city of Scranton. They just did some curb cutouts on Union and 12th Street. And they're not. I even talked to the guys that were doing it. I said, you guys do realize that the way you are setting these up, you're going to leave a 3-inch lip for someone to fall over. So it's not just in Taylor. This is all over the county that is just, they're not lined up. Downtown, I know we've sat with the city of Scranton, the mayor's office, when they were doing the walkability study, and a lot of those cutouts are just, they walk you into the middle of the street. I mean, and it's like I said, it's not just Taylor. Unfortunately, that's where I live, and it's not just that one. There's multiple, and I understand you're going to work on it, but it's throughout the whole county, so it's not just one borough issue. It's a whole county issue throughout.
Yep.
I just wanted to, my name is Marty Paige and I work for the ARC of NEPA. And I really just want to take a moment for thanking everybody that's been here. It's wonderful to see the support of all the people needs. And it's a lot out of your agenda. So thank you very much for being here. And I just want to end on a good note. Thank you.
Any more?
There's just one other item I thought of before, but forgot to say it. Somebody mentioned about old construction, whatever, that any new construction has to be compliant. But with old construction, isn't there a law that if they make some sort of improvements, or say they buy out an old building to redo for a purpose, that then they have to make it accessible? Say if they're making a major another construction improvement, you know, whatever, adding to their kitchen or this or that or whatever, that then they have to make it accessible. Yes, I think it's something I read a while back. Just a question to be on the lookout for if it's a building that is getting something put on.
And I'm so sorry. I just wanted to mention Senator Rosemary Brown founded the Senate Mental Health Caucus. So that's something I will send to her about. I didn't want to, I'm sorry. The state reps are here, so I'm not important because I'm a staff member. But I just wanted to mention that that's something that we'll look at because I know it's been an issue for a little while. Thank you.
You're important.
No.
Yeah, you're important. I just want to touch quickly. I don't want to hold up any more from any other speakers because we still have some time and we want to take your questions, your comments. But a couple issues, the one you had just raised before, and Tom dealing with sidewalks and curb cut. Dale, you'd be the one to know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but getting back to the very first presentation, the question from Taylor about curb cuts and the issue with the replacement of sidewalks not being done. But aside from that, my understanding is that there was at one point a Supreme Court decision that interprets resurfacing, like if a borough or municipality paves through an intersection, that those corners need to have, those slabs need to be replaced with cuts, even if the sidewalk was not going to be torn up or dug up, even if it's just paving or resurfacing. Is that true?
I'm not very familiar, Keith, I'm sorry, but I can certainly, have one of, I'm not an attorney, certainly our attorneys would have worked on something like that. I would invite folks to contact if they're having any issues with curb cut. We've done a ton of lawsuits and litigation and even negotiations around curb cuts. So, I would say speak with our attorneys who know more on the issue than I do, so that they can provide you with good information. So if anybody wants to do that, I'm happy to give out our information.
I think the question became the issue of milling. And if milling was considered resurfacing. And I believe that the court decision said, yes, that is considered, it triggers the curb cut requirement, even if the sidewalks themselves are not being replaced. Okay, we still have more time, more questions.
Can I actually just chime in on that? Thanks. One program in particular, the Community Development Block Grant Program, actually does, and again, that's a very specific program that there are 11 entitlement communities in the county, and the rest of the communities can come in for other funds that the county has. But with that particular program, new construction, any projects that are new construction must meet ADA accessibility. And then also with curb cuts and paving, they end up being one and the same. They are not mutually exclusive. When they do a project with Community Development Block Grant funds that is a paving project, they are required to do the curb cuts as well.
Great news. While you're on it, can I ask you to clarify something? We see a lot of the verbiage in newspaper articles, or see it on the news when we talk about funding communities. Can you tell us what the difference is, the definition of it? What's an entitlement versus a non-entitlement community?
Oh, sure. There are 11 entitlement communities, which means that their councils, they get direct allocations of funds from the state, and it comes through the county. But those particular communities, their councils then get together, and they get funding every year through the state. And but again, it comes through the county, and they have to come up with projects for their community that meet the guidelines and can be accepted from DCED at the state level. So, one of the things that was brought up here a lot was talking about curb cuts and paving. I would go to your municipalities. Again, even if you're not one of the 11 entitlements, you are then able to come directly to the county for funds that we have for what's called non-entitlement communities. So basically, everyone has access to funds, but your council and your municipalities are the ones that come up with the projects that they want to address in the communities, and many of those projects end up being paving projects and curb cut projects.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Anyone? Would you like to add anything else, Keith?
Just basically just want to say thank you. Again, I guess we'll wrap up according to my clock, about 13 minutes early, but I think we did pretty well. We raised a variety of comments, questions that touched on a variety of disability issues and ran across the board. And as I think someone had mentioned before, I mean, disability is just one component of Lackawanna County, statewide and nationally. I mean, it's part of the tapestry of our community. It is the one segment, the one part of the population that anybody can join in a heartbeat, and we don't say that obviously to be a downer. We just say that to be realistic and know that in some case, at some point or another, someone is bound to experience a disability in their life, even if it's something very, very minor, or have somebody with a disability in their family. So disability is something that really, the one factor that cuts across any socioeconomic level and status in our country. So it's important that we learn not only to embrace and most importantly, enforce the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, but to think ahead and think how we can truly create and promote more inclusive communities. Again, I want to thank the commissioners for having this event, all of our state representatives, senators, COLTS, staff from Lackawanna County, Mayor Cognetti, our legislators. If I didn't mention it before, many thanks to ECTV for covering the event. I emailed them about 2.5, 3 weeks ago to let them know of this event, and they said, we already plan on being there. So that was a great event, a great surprise. We didn't expect that. Chris Calvi, Executive Director of the County Trolley Museum, right where we are, has been great with doing the arrangements. This is a wonderful facility. We had a tour several months ago. I encourage you, even if you're from Lackawanna County and have not been to the Trolley Museum before, and there are a lot of county residents who don't realize what's in their own backyard, to please come and to visit the facility. Avail yourself to our elected officials here, to COLTS transportation program, all across the board. And again, thank you for your participation in the committee. If you can, please feel free to put your email address and or phone number on the sign-in sheet if you didn't already. And we're going to be compiling a listserv to keep you up to date about Disability Action Committee events. So again, thank you. Be careful on your way out and stay dry. Thank you.